You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Bark and Wag is excited to announce our new partnership with a Colorado hemp farm to produce a line of CBD products for your pets. Bark and Wag has CBD pet tincture available in 300, 750, 1200, and 2400 milligrams. Bark and Wag CBD is pet safe, no THC, it's made in the USA, and is CO2 extracted. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That is BARK, to see our line of CBD and awesome merchandise. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise, so anytime send an email to Polly at barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we're talking to Melissa and Brandon, co-founders and mission coordinators for Summit Lost Pet Rescue. Welcome back, Summit Lost Pet Rescue. I wanted to have Melissa and Brandon back on the podcast to discuss what do you do if you lose your pet. I'm on multiple sites in Denver, or Colorado, Illinois, and Wisconsin. And I'm always cutting and pasting your 1 or 2 sheets on the steps to follow if your pet goes missing. And so I wanted to have something verbally that I could send to the owners or to the Facebook groups, letting them know what to do if you lose your pet. So welcome back.
Thank you so much for having us back.
So could you please go through all the steps, what an owner should do if they lose their pet?
Absolutely. I'll start out by giving the steps here in Summit County, and then I'll kind of cater it to being more vague if you're out of state. As far as Summit County, Colorado, if you lose your pet, immediately the first step you want to do is call animal control. Their phone number is 970-668-8600, and also call the Summit Shelter in Frisco at 970-668-3230. You want to make sure that they both have lost reports on your pet. Next, you definitely want to give us a call. Our office line is 970-423-5701, or you can also fill out an owner intake form on our website at lostpetrescue.org.
Okay, and then what are the steps like to contact Nextdoor, or do you have any tips for owners that are outside of Summit County?
Absolutely. Same thing. It goes back to contacting your local animal control and shelter. That would be the very, very first phone call you want to make. Send the report out to the local agencies. That way, if a pet has been found and brought to their shelter, they know who to contact. The next most important thing that we always recommend anywhere, make sure your pet has a collar or an ID tag, because it saves so much time and heartache if somebody finds your lost dog or lost cat. If there's a collar and a phone number on it, that's a simple reunion. That way you don't have to, go days, weeks, or even months of, the heartache of having your pet lost. As far as social media campaigns, we do that a lot here in Summit County, but you can do it anywhere. Go to your local Facebook pages that are very popular, post pictures of your lost pet, make sure your phone number's on there. That way, if there's any sightings that come in, people can contact you right away. We always recommend for people that are not on Facebook, go to nextdoor.com. That is kind of like a neighborhood forum where people can communicate and share lots of information. So that's another great tool to post on nextdoor.com.
And when you do lose your dog, where should you put clothing or some type of comfort scent stations out?
We always recommend putting it out at the point of escape. We call it the POE. So if the dog or cat went missing from home, put the dirty clothes, scent station smells out on your front porch or in your yard. A lot of pets go missing while hiking up here in Summit County. We always recommend that the owners come back to the trailhead and leave their dirty clothes smells at the trailhead instead of hiking many, many miles through the trails, because If you're moving through the trail system, you're leaving your smells, it's going to confuse the dog on where to go. So we always try to draw them back to the trailhead.
And what have you found that dogs are near the dirty clothes or not, or, the clothes?
The scent stations?
Yeah.
For the most part, yeah. There's been numerous times where we've walked up to the scent station and found the animal sleeping on the clothes.
Oh, interesting.
It works.
Yeah, it's an old hunter's trick. That's what hunters used to do when their bird dogs might go off to retrieve a bird, and then the dogs kind of get lost. They left their jacket there, and the next day they would find their dog sleeping on there. We had a dog in Fairplay, Henry, who was missing for 13 days or something like that. And on the 13th day, we found him sleeping on the owner's shirt. So it definitely works. And if they're not on the shirt, then they know that that's the orientation point and they're in that area, and they don't leave that area because they know that they're supposed to be there.
Right. And so when there is a car accident, do you find that the dog, why do they run? Do you think they get disorientated, or what do you think the issue is? Well,
right off the bat, they're just so spooked and so scared. And the first thing they're going to do is just go into flight mode, and they run. But the thing with car accident dogs, they never really go further than 1 mile radius of the car accident. Of all the car accidents we worked, I think only one dog did, and she stayed in the same area for a long time. But then the construction workers came to fix the fence, and that's what pushed her out. I mean, Nala was 75 days, and I trapped her 50 yards away from the crash site. They always stay in the same area. I think it's just the initial shock and the adrenaline that make them like freak out and bust out a window or open the door, and then they just take off. But then they slow down. They come to their senses.
They smell the owner. We always have the owners keep their dirty clothes at the crash site as well.
Okay. And what about making sure that you call the microchip company and report your dog lost? How does the microchip company send out a alert to the vets, or how does that work?
Well, there's multiple different microchip companies, and what we find in our rescue missions, A, a lot of owners either don't have a microchip, or B, if they do have a microchip, they failed to go onto their microchip company website to update their information and put their address and their phone number. So for example, if you adopt a dog from a shelter, I believe the majority of shelter dogs and cats come with a microchip. Thank goodness. It's an amazing resource.
Yeah.
But it's up to the owner to go onto the microchip company website and add their new information. Because there's many dogs and cats that we find and we scan for microchip. Yay, it has a microchip, but there's no information registered, so we can't find the owner. On the flip side, if you lose a cat or dog, try to be preventative. We try to teach and coach lost pet prevention tips all the time. We'd rather your pet never go missing, but if they do, make sure your microchip information is up to date on their website. Because yes, we actually just had an amazing example with a lost cat that was missing for 71 days. Mr. Biggs went missing. He was a former outdoor cat, but they just recently moved, and there was a ton of construction outside their house. And when they were moving, he escaped outside. We believe that he hopped in a construction vehicle. He got taken over 125 miles away down into the city. 71 days later, we all get a notification saying that his microchip got switched from lost to found. And we were all jumping for joy, like, oh my God, someone found Mr. Biggs. So long story short, the owner called the new shelter that found him, and he was reunited within 24 hours. Moral of the story, if they didn't have a microchip, he probably would have never come home to his family. And B, they had a microchip in him with the correct information. And when he went missing, we immediately told them, hey, go to your microchip website and change the status to lost. That way, whoever finds them, if they scan a chip, they know that he's a lost pet and they can reunite him.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. So can you please let people know how they can call your hotline as well as your website information? Because I know that you have documentation on what to do when you have a pet missing.
Absolutely. The quickest way to reach us is calling our office line. It's 970-423-5785. 5701. And again, we service all of Summit County, up in Leadville, down in Fairplay as well. If you are out of the county, our website has tons and tons of information for anybody and everybody to share and to follow. So if you go to our website at lostpetrescue.org, you click on Lost Pet. Literally, we have every single one of our search protocols, bullet pointed. So you go down the list and it's foolproof. Definitely follow all the lost pet protocols from our website to help give you all these techniques that we follow.
Well, thank you for being on the podcast, and we look forward to having you back.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Polly. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Polly.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.